Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches. Today I'm going to be talking about the downbeat slow motion apocalypse of Idaho Transfer from 1973. So a 50-year-old film at this point. The movie centres on a secret research project ostensibly tasked with attempting to discover a way to transmit matter, teleportation basically. But what has actually stumbled into is time travel. Specifically, they can jump to a point 56 years in the future. I'm not sure how they know it's 56 years, given that they're unable to find anyone alive to tell them, but go with it. 56 years in the future. The team are, as you might imagine, a bit anxious about the whole can't find any living people thing. They've scanned the radio channels of the future without success and travelled far enough to check out a couple of local towns, both of which are abandoned. Presumably they would have found some information there to tell them, give them a date at which the place was still inhabited, but, how do you know how long it hasn't been inhabited after that? I don't know. The project team's reaction to all of this is to keep their discovery secret and attempt to restore the human race in the future. They plan to do this by recruiting teenagers and sending them into the future to be breeding stock. Why teenagers? Well, anyone over the age of 20, roughly, who goes forward suffers kidney failure within days or weeks at most, so it has to be young people. In the meantime, they're keeping the authorities in the dark about what's going on. Why are they doing all this on the quiet, not telling the government? Well, that's not explained. But this is the early 70s, so skepticism about the man was perhaps just assumed. In any case, the project gets shut down. Probably, in my opinion, due to them not showing any results and obviously giving the higher-ups the runaround, but we're not actually given a reason in the film. In any case, about a dozen of the teenagers do manage to escape to the future through the gate before the shutdown, which all brings us to the midpoint of the film and seems to set up a pretty interesting conundrum. What happened to everyone, and then an obvious route to resolve it and hopefully save the human species in our 13 time travellers. And I was, at that point in the film, largely on board with Idaho Transfer. Yes, the acting wasn't terribly good, but there was a valid reason for that. The whole movie had been shot for only about $500,000, using a cast where 90% of them had never acted before. The only cast member who had any real experience was a young Keith Carradine, who featured in only a minor role. So given those circumstances and the possibilities of the premise, I was willing to overlook the technical flaws in the hopes that it would deliver a satisfying second half. But those hopes were to be thoroughly dashed. The potentially interesting situation at the end of my synopsis is squandered completely as scriptwriter Thomas Matheson, who, as far as I can see, never wrote another film, and director Peter Fonda, yes, that Peter Fonda, combine forces to quash any chance of entertainment for the audience. So, why does it go so wrong? Well, let's start with the movie's tagline. Can the future be saved by the ideals of the past? The film's answer is an emphatic no. Everything is irretrievably, inevitably doomed, and the human race is going to expire not with a bang but with a whimper, passing into oblivion because of our pride, intemperance, and selfishness. Now look, I get it. The early 70s was a time of great pessimism about the future of the planet. The United States and other parts of the world were seeing an increased reliance on foreign energy, the risks of which would be illustrated in full in the year this movie emerged, during the 1973 oil crisis. The US had also withdrawn from Vietnam, finally acknowledging that even after spending billions of dollars and tens of thousands of lives, they could not defeat the tiny nation of North Vietnam and the much-feared spread of communism. The Watergate scandal was in full swing, exposing corruption at the highest levels of the government, it would claim the president himself in a few months. But the thing is, we're all doomed, and to be frank, we deserved it, doesn't make for a very enjoyable film. And having established that basic thesis, the film doesn't seem to have much to offer except additional evidence to support it. Then there's the rather randomly contrived conclusion of the movie with its explicit, we have to conserve our resources or we will destroy ourselves, ecological warning. This would perhaps have made a decent ending to a short-form horror story, such as might have been offered in The Twilight Zone. But tacked onto the end of a full-length movie with no real foreshadowing, it feels very much like the writer not really knowing how to end it, so just throwing out a heavy-handed capital M message and hoping for the best. Now, what's personally particularly irritating about this to me is that it's so counterproductive. I'm fully on board with the idea that human society needs to do more to reduce its consumption and protect the planet, and that climate change is a real thing and a very big danger for the future. But the way that this movie goes about sending that message is just so strident, so overwrought, and so contrived that I just ended up rolling my eyes at it. Like, it's not just preaching to the choir, it's driving the choir away. But trust me, the movie may be over at this point, but there's still a whole lot more banging of the weird doom drum that I haven't yet talked about. This movie is determined that we know there is no hope. Even the faintest flicker must immediately be doused with the fire hose of despair. I'm going to be a bit more detailed here about some of the specific incidents in the film, so if for some reason the idea of a thoroughly nihilistic and pessimistic film appeals to you, and you really want to watch it unspoiled, you should probably stop the video now. Still here? Okay, well, let's dig into some of the specific cases where the film goes out of its way to underline that there is no hope. None. Just lie in a hole and wait to die already. The first is where the main character, about whom more later, believes she might be pregnant and tells her fellow time travellers. Now, there are only 13 of these teens, and they have neither medical training nor much medical equipment, so the viability of both this child specifically and their chances of building up the numbers over time through births is frankly absurdly low. They're probably doomed. But this is not the kind of movie to allow even that glimmer of far-fetched hope. The character, and we the audience, are immediately told that she cannot be pregnant because just before the project was shut down, the researchers realised that time travel makes you sterile. So why did the kids who knew this still jump into the future? Presumably because if they didn't, they might have stayed in the past and actually done something useful. But then a wild glimmer of hope appears. They discover an adult human from the future. Yes, this person has regressed to Stone Age levels of capability, but, it might be possible for the kids to find more such people and teach them. Over time, this small group might be able to educate and uplift a whole bunch of future humans and rebuild the race. Well, we'd better stop that from happening by having one of the kids go crazy and start murdering the others. Even the faintest hint of hope must be squashed like a cockroach. It's all, frankly, very tiresome. And speaking of tiresome, there's the main character, whose whiny, selfish, counterproductive antics may well make you thankful that she lives in the cruelest of cinematic universes. Yes, there are at least some reasons for her behaviour. It's mentioned that she's been abused in the past, but bad things have happened to me doesn't excuse her utter disregard for the welfare of those around her. She consistently fails to pull her weight in group tasks, steals from others without any apparent qualms, whines about everything, and in general fills the selfish jerk role that you often do get in survival films, but who most such movies realise, should not be the protagonist. On top of that, she breaks the number one rule of Pixar's 22 rules of writing, which is that you admire a character for trying more than for their successes. What this means in essence is that characters identify with a character not because they won, but for the effort they showed in trying to win. No one is going to care about a protagonist who wins without any effort, after all. They haven't done anything, they haven't achieved anything. The main character of this movie does not succeed. Remember, there is no hope. But even worse, for much of the movie, she fails to even try. This movie's interesting beginning unfortunately comes to nothing, and I really cannot recommend watching this movie. Next time, a movie I very much enjoyed, to the extent that making a video about it will probably make me want to rewatch it. The crazy Japanese fantasy action film Zippang from 1990. But that's next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've seen today's movie, let me know what you thought of it.